Hello, hello. Hope everyone can hear me and see me. Okay, while we wait for everyone to join in, I would love to hear where is everyone joining us from. Oh, I can see Claudia. Hello.
Hi.
Okay, can hear now. Okay, I guess we can slowly start. Well, first of all, welcome everyone to the second MBS talk. My name is Maria. I'm the person behind MBS Design Atelier, and my guest today is Klaudia Lewandowska. So maybe I'll give you a second to introduce yourself first, and then we will start talking.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Klaudia Lewandowska and I'm from Poland, but I live in Australia currently. I moved here almost 3 years ago to study architecture, and I'm almost graduated from Bachelor of Architectural Design. Almost.
Very nice. And we met through TikTok actually. I was following Claudia since beginning of this year. I think I found you, and was
That's
inspired
when my
by
TikTok
some
was
of.
created.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't
Yeah.
know. Really? That's so early. Wow. Yeah, I found your videos and I found some inspirations for my final project of my second year. So yeah, really enjoyed that. Okay, well, first of all, congratulations, almost on finishing your degree, almost. How does it feel? How are you feeling, first of all? How is it?
I really want it to be over already. I'm doing my last assignment currently, but I will be really, really happy because it's very reassuring to have a degree done, especially when I'm in a foreign country. It's always some kind of reassuring thing to have your degree instead of being in the middle of the degree. Because if anything happens, I always have the degree and I have something materially from all these years.
Right, cool. And well, let's start with a short introduction. How did you even decided to choose on studying architecture on first place?
I was playing a lot The Sims.
Okay. I love that.
Because I
Okay,
was
but
always
architecture, not interior design?
yeah, I was always a maths person, so I wanted. We don't have much maths, but I always wanted something more like engineering maths kind of. So yeah, but I not always knew that I wanted to study architecture actually. I figured that I wanted to study architecture in my last year of high school in Poland, and I was on biology and chemistry profile.
So, wow. Okay, so no extended maths.
No, I had to write extended maths exam though, and I studied for it by myself for 5 months before Matura, Polish exam.
God. Oh wow. I did a similar thing, but I started 3 months before the final.
What was
So
that? What
I
was the
did
subject?
I did extended maths as well on Matura, which is our final. But I was doing, in theory, my class was extended English and geography because I chose that for myself. But then I ended up writing extended English and maths. So
Same for me.
Yeah. Okay, and well, and how was the transition from Poland to Australia? Because you started studying in Poland. How did that happen?
So why did I decide to change my uni to Australia?
Yes.
So
Or like how was the
there was I was in my first year of uni in Poland, and there was COVID, and I was just sitting inside the house, as everyone, for months, and I was looking at the weather and I was like, I just want to live in a warm place already because I had plans to move abroad after my uni, but it's like 6 years in Poland. So I was like, no, I don't want to wait. And I started researching uni in Australia very spontaneously. And then I got in and I quit the uni in Poland, but because there was COVID, they didn't let me into Australia. So I had to wait for 1.5 years. I was just tutoring maths for 1.5 years, which was a really good job during COVID because a lot of people needed tutoring. So I was like doing nothing except for that for 1.5 years. And then I came to Australia, and it was because I was doing so little, like I wasn't studying for 1.5 years. That was very, like, a lot of adjustments to start studying again. Yeah, but it's a lot easier than in Poland, so at least that's that.
Okay. And how was the application process coming from a Polish high school? How was it maybe also in Poland? Did you need a portfolio, or was there an admission test?
So I had help from student organizations, so they did help me a lot with everything. But basically, there weren't very specific requirements. So they did want the Matura exam, end of high school exam results, and there was IELTS test and the personal letter, but the rest was kind of up to you. So you could submit whatever you wanted. So I submitted, for example, my portfolio. I submitted my 2 best subjects from grades from Polish university. So I gave them, for example, only 2 subjects that I was getting straight 5s, but they didn't see any of my 3s or 2s or 4s or anything.
Was it, wait, let's clarify. Was that graded from 1 to 6?
From I don't
the
remember.
grades?
No, I think it was 2 to 5 in Polish uni.
Okay, I have no idea. That's what I'm asking, because I'm graded in Barcelona from 1 to 10, and 10 is the best. So.
Oh my God, that's so different. I think it was 2 to 5 in Polish university.
Okay.
So yeah, so you could like choose
5
what
being
you
the
want to
best.
show them. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, and you could like submit whatever kind of you wanted to make your application stronger without necessarily showing your drawbacks.
Okay, good. And what did you submit then? Was it like drawings or what was the portfolio like?
So because I was studying for a year in Poland, I submitted my projects from this year. And we had 13 subjects in Poland, so we had a lot of materials. So I submitted tons of drawings, technical drawings, paintings even, and my house projects.
Wow, okay. I see. And applying to Poland?
To Poland, so to apply to Poland, there's 2 stages to get into architecture, where I studied, which is Gdańsk University of Technology. And first one is to receive the necessary amount of points from your Matura exams. And then, so you apply, and only, I think it was 400 something people got to the uni from Matura exams. And then the second stage was architecture drawing exams. So you go to uni, and like it was either 1 day or 3 days, I'm not sure, or it was 1 day and like 3 stages, but I don't remember. And we had different like exercises. They were very hard. I was preparing for that in special school. And from this cut, only half the people got into uni. So from 400 something, 200 something only got in.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I heard it's quite tough in Poland. My exam in Barcelona was very long, but because it's private university, I feel like everyone got in, sort of. But the exam was also very long, but it wasn't. I had the idea of the entrance exam from Poland when I heard that it's crazy and people are preparing in like extra classes after classes in high school. So I was scared, but it wasn't as hard. But yeah.
So Australia is the easiest.
Really?
You don't need any exam. Like you don't have to do any actual exams to get in.
But then probably they're dropping people off mid-term.
Yeah, because it's hard, but it's also theoretically it's public, but like it costs a lot of money. So uni wants everyone kind of, especially international people, because international people pay them more money.
Right. I feel like it's the same everywhere. And let's talk about the specific course structures. How was it, if there is any way that you could compare it, your university in Australia to the one to your experience in Poland? How are the courses structured?
So in Poland, it was very typical classes. So like we come to class, we sit down, the teacher is talking, doing exercises. We do the exercises with the teacher and we're like following the teacher, and all the classes were looking like that. I think there was only one class where we have more like freedom and the teachers are just walking around and checking up on us, but still there were a lot of exercises. And in Australia, it's more like we have a lecture and then we have tutorials. And during tutorials, we are divided to smaller groups and we have tutors. And it's also like very huge like room with not tables like in a class in rows, but more like in circles, or like so like you can sit in a group and work together. So we also, it depends on the tutor, because some tutors will put a whiteboard and they will start drawing something on a whiteboard so you can do something with them. But some tutors will be just like, yeah, do your work, and they are just walking around and checking up on you.
Interesting.
And like talking with you. So that depends on
And how big is the class?
Like free. I think it was 100 people for sure at the beginning. Right now we have about 60, I think.
Okay.
Something like that.
It's something in between my university in Barcelona and the university here in London, because here the class is super big. It's about 100 people. And we also don't have like a typical classroom tables, but like more of, blocks of tables to sit in a group. Whereas in Barcelona, it looks like a typical classroom. There's, typical classroom desk and everyone is like sitting and they checking the attendance. But also the feedback is different. I know, but it's also so like official and it feels like I'm still in high school. It doesn't give the university vibe that I was expecting. So it's very different. And what about submissions and presentations? How does that look like?
So we usually have subjects divided into studio, which is the main design subject, and then other subjects, basically. So from the studio, we have presentations. So we make our panels where we put all our work, we print them, and then we put them on the wall and present, and also submit these panels as PDFs. And it's always A1 panels, so they're like big.
Wow.
Yeah, but for other subjects, that depends. It's usually just like work submitted online. We don't very often present, but for example, we had once exhibition as an assignment. So we had to prepare exhibition and that was our assignment.
Wow.
Or right now we were, for example, printing our documentation and presenting in a group, but that was only 1 out of 4 assignments that we had presentations. So I'm so sorry about the cars.
No, can't hear anything.
So yeah, so the studio is always presentations, and all the other subjects, it's usually just online, but sometimes they have some spice added to
And
that.
do you also do some writing submissions, or is it just designs?
We had 3 writing submissions throughout the whole uni. It was once it was typical report. I didn't like that. Once it was about like architects and exhibitions, so that was connected to our exhibition, so that was very interesting, more like artsy and not like 40 pages report. And once we had like mathematical report kind of, so it was writing with drawings and like diagrams and calculations.
Yeah, I'm surprised because here in London, they're expecting from us written word, and it's actually part of the submission, like big part of the submission is specific writing. So they say like, okay, they call it portfolio, not like a final presentation, it's called portfolio. And they're like, okay, in your portfolio, you have to put the 1,000 word writing analysis of a chosen project, and then you have to develop your own project and also like write a lot of explanation to each step of your design and thinking process, which is very strange to me. I actually came back right now from a tutoring meeting, and she was like, I don't want to see the final project. I don't want to see the jump from like, we have to see the process of like your creative thinking, and it has to be explained. So right now I have to figure out how to explain like what's happening in my head step by step and how I get to the final design. So I think I find it quite challenging to write this much on design
Yeah,
subjects.
I would have issues with that too, because they want
Yes.
from us the thinking process in sketches, for example, and drawings.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want that in writing. They're like,
in Barcelona,
if you can draw it, don't write it.
Yeah, exactly. In Barcelona, we can't write. If you write more than 2 sentences on a slide, it's already too much, and they're already complaining. So they also ask about some sketches, of course, as a design process, but writing is like, don't write. So it's a big change. So I'm curious, how is it going to go? Okay, and what about the schedules and workload? Because I think that's a big key part of studying architecture degree.
Yeah, it's very weird in Australia because like in Poland, everyone knew you have a lot of workload because we had 13 subjects per semester, at least at the beginning. And like we were basically in uni, like in normal high school, like time load considering. And then apart from that, we had to do our homeworks and stuff like that. But here we have only like typical schedule because people can like switch things up and stuff like that. So like typical schedule is free for architecture, 3 subjects per trimester only, and it's 4 hours for 2 subjects, so 8 plus theoretically 8 for another one. So
Per
like
week?
Yeah, so like 16 theoretically. But for example, in the one that's 8 hours, because it's like double credit, that's the studio. You can, a lot of people, for example, just come in and after the lecture, you can talk with the tutor, and you know that the tutor will only speak with you once because he has to speak with every single person, and that he will run out of time. And you see there's a lot of people this day, so you can go home after, for example. So it's like you don't have to spend all this time in like class, for especially in studio, when you know that the tutor won't talk with you for a second time, for example. That also depends on the tutor, on the trimester. So, and sometimes we also had lectures online, for example. All our lectures are also recorded, so we can like watch them another day.
That's nice. Okay. And what about, how many semesters do you have in a year?
Oh, and I didn't say, sorry. I forgot to say about the workload. So even though we have so little time in the week, we have so much work like at home in our own self-learning that we could not be sleeping throughout a whole trimester and still have stuff left to do. Like there's never enough time. So it's like you have to be self-motivated, because if you're not, you can just not pass the course. So that's the difference between.
Yeah, it's the same with interior design, in the case that in Barcelona we have classes. Each class is 3 hours long, and we have at least 1 class per day, if not 2. And you cannot miss them. You cannot skip. It's 13 people in a class, so they can see if someone left, or if you're late also, if you're late more than 15 minutes, you're already absent, and you can only have 2 absences. And you can only have 2 absences per subject, because otherwise you fail the whole subject. So it's, very strict about the classes. But they say that each subject, and we have about 14 subjects throughout the year, each subject they say is about 100 hours that they write on the official paper, but the time in class is only 30 hours out of 100. So they say, okay, there's 30 hours in class, but then you're expected to do from each subject 70 hours at home. So it's similar. In London, on the other hand, the classes are very big. So people come in, they leave, they come late. It's very relaxed, let's say. But then you are expected to work mainly at home. It's really self-learning focused here.
We have the same also like set of hours expected. For the whole trimester, we have 40 times 12. So it's almost 500 hours in general for the whole trimester.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, and going back to my question, how many semesters do you have? Because I wonder if it's different in Australia.
It's more complicated. So it's basically 3 trimesters, but if you're doing, I as an international student have to do full-time uni, and full-time means that you go to uni trimester 1, trimester 2, and trimester 3 you have holidays, because trimester 3 is for people who want to do it part-time. So for example, they want to do only 2 subjects per trimester to lower the workload, and then they can do the additional subjects, like not the studio, but the other 2. It's always studio and the other 2. They can do them in trimester 3, and then they like have the same amount of workload, but they have more time to do it. So that's how it works here.
Right. And you also start, because you're about to finish right now and we're starting here. So it's also a little bit reverse. What month do you start?
Beginning of March.
Okay. Wow, that is very different.
We have exactly our whole summer. We basically have holidays, Australian summer.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and going back to the technical parts, what about grading from those subjects? How are you graded from presenting, or since there's no writing, but how are you graded in per each course?
So I'm a bad person to answer that question, because we get like marking rubrics, where they say how many points you get for this and this. I never read them.
Okay.
I know that we usually have about like 10% or something from presentations from the studio.
Okay.
And then like I never read them, but it's like for sure if we make mistakes in our work, if we did like the analysis enough, if we put enough work, if it's like coherent, consistent, if it all makes sense. Because I was always getting good marks, I never looked at the marking rubrics, and I was just doing what they told me to do. But we have like marking rubrics, and they tell us what they grade us for.
Okay. All right. Now let's get to the technical part about being an architect. Let's talk about the qualifications that you need in order to become an architect
in Australia.
Yes.
So first you have to do Bachelor of Architecture, and then there are 2 different pathways to become an architect. Because
how long is the bachelor's?
So in my uni it's 3 years, because it differs from university to university. Yeah.
Okay.
So first path, the more kind of standard, is you can do masters after bachelor. You can also, a lot of people do a break, so they go start a job after bachelor, and then they come back to do masters part-time while also working, which I would love to do, but because I'm international, I can't do it part-time anyway. So yeah, but then even when you finish Masters of Architecture, you can just call yourself a graduate of architecture. And then you had to be an architect, you have to do a registration. And I don't know the exact requirements because they also change a lot of the times. But from what I remember, it's you have to work in practice for some amount of time. Like I think it was 2 years or something like that. You have to have amount of hours worked in architecture company or in the field, and then you have to do the registration, and your employer also has to sign on to some papers, and like there's a lot of paperwork to that.
Is the registration like an exam?
I'm not sure. I think it is from what I was looking at, I think a year ago. But as I said, laws in Australia change all the time so much that it's they change so much.
Hard to keep on track.
Yeah, it's honestly, there's no point in looking at laws in Australia if it doesn't require if you don't need it right now, because they might change in a few months even. Like there's literally no point. But yeah, and it costs also a lot of money to do the registration. But my friend told me some time ago that there is also, you cannot do the masters, and you can do registration straight after bachelor, but there's a lot more years that you have to work in the field to do the registration. So yeah, and also they were telling me that if you do have the masters, people like look at you a bit better as an architect if you are after the masters. Yeah.
How long is the master course?
2 years in my uni.
Okay, so it's a total of 5 plus 2 years of experience at work.
Yeah, but not everyone does the registration straight away, and not everyone does it at all, because first of all, it costs money, and second of all, if you're not a registered architect, you can still work as an architect. Like you're not an architect, but you can work as an architect, but you cannot just sign
you just can't call
under the
yourself.
project. Yeah, you're not basically you are not liable for the projects if you're not after the registration. There has to be a registered architect signed under every project, and he is the one liable. So some people don't want to be liable for the project, so they just don't do the registration. Because if you mess something up and you're liable for it, you can have some legal issues.
Of course, you're the one responsible for it. Okay, interesting. And do you know how does it work also in Poland? Because actually, I don't know.
I don't think I ever found that out, but there has to be some exam too. Like because
I know Australia is very strict about it, but
yeah, like in Poland, no one will make you trouble if you call yourself an architect after graduating, and in Australia you can't call yourself an architect. But I'm sure there's some kind of registration too, because I know like lawyers have to do registration in Poland after uni, so I would assume there is something.
Okay, and now let's compare, because a lot of people are curious, what is the difference between being an architect and interior designer? I think we could talk about that a little bit to maybe solve some doubts. What architects does, what interior designer, what is the difference between studying those two? If you think there's anything that you know that you could compare.
We definitely don't spend a lot of time on interiors. Like we can, but we don't have to. Like we're more about the structure of the building, the requirements, and how the building is a overall. And then you have to think about the interiors, but it's more like lighting, how they are positioned. So everything that's like also connected to the form of the buildings and how the form is placed. We don't have to be like, choosing like everything very specifically in the interiors. It's just more or less of the vibe and how we play with the light and stuff like that.
Okay, so it's more focusing on the exterior form that of course also creates the interior spaces, but it's more about the form, about the building. And do you think the course itself is more practical, that there is more model making? Are you required to do a model every time, or is it up to you?
Yes, we are required, but if we don't do it, we just lose points. It's not like we fail.
Okay.
I didn't do mine this semester. I did have the time.
Okay, because with interior design, I don't feel like we do that many models. And even if we do, they don't really care about the form, how it looks from the outside, but it's more about like the space that it creates. So they ask you to take pictures of the inside of it as well. So I think that's a different part. And then about the course itself, do you learn about a lot about like technical stuff, like exterior materials or construction?
So I would say yes, but because I started studying in Poland, I would say no, because you can study either I think it's called professionally Bachelor of Science or just Bachelor. Because in Poland,
Okay.
it was Bachelor of Science. So when you finish that, you're an engineer architect. And in Australia, it's just Bachelor. So we will not be engineer architects. And so in Poland, we had a lot of like maths, we had physics, we had like so complicated like technical subjects, which I absolutely loved. We don't we don't have that many of that here. Like we still have them, but because I knew how much we had of those in Poland, like for example, what we are doing here in some technical subjects throughout the whole trimester, we did in first year in Poland in first 2 weeks only. Like the amount of material from the whole trimester was just 2 weeks in Poland, and they still had more like this subject number 2, number 3, you know, which I don't do anymore.
Wow.
So
how long was the course in Poland? Was it 3 or 4 years?
4 bachelor and then 2 masters, so 6 in total.
Okay, so it's longer. Okay, it's interesting that you mentioned that as well, because my course is a bachelor's in art. So I'm receiving an art degree, and interior design is considered mainly as a bachelor's in art. So I think that's also a big difference that maybe people don't realize coming straight from high school. And that's where the difference is between learning stuff, engineering stuff, and then more artsy stuff here, because studying interior design, I feel like there's also a lot of painting, sometimes even sculptures and more artsy stuff as well. And then architecture is like,
in Poland,
between. I think like engineering is like extremely technical. Then architecture is in between, is art, it's technical and also like artsy. And then interior design, I feel like it has a bit from architecture, a bit technical stuff, but it's more, creative as well.
I'm jealous of that now because I'm doing a very not nice technical assignment. Yeah, I would rather draw 100 paintings than what I'm doing now.
Really? Oh my God, I'm completely the opposite. I love the technical drawings. I think technical drawings and 3D is, I think, I can draw for my life. So painting is absolutely last thing on my skills list, because I cannot. So that's always very challenging. Okay, and now what are your future plans that you're coming to an end of your degree? And do you have any future steps planned for your career and personal life? Because I know there is exciting stuff there coming.
Yeah, so I already applied to masters in Griffith in the same university. And I'm still waiting on like receiving the final marks and stuff like that to finalize that all. But I will, hopefully everything will work out and I will be starting masters in March, so after my holidays.
And how is your graduation in Australia?
So I don't know exactly because we don't have any like specific information about that, but I do know that we wear togas and the hat.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, we do. We don't do that in Poland, so when I heard about that, I was very excited.
Yes, that's
But that's all I
great.
know. I know that ceremony, and that's all I know.
And when is it? Do you know?
Middle of December, so I hope I'm gonna make it for it.
Oh, yeah, true. Back from your travels.
Yeah,
Okay.
I will be cutting it very short to come back for graduation, to be honest.
Right. Okay, good. So you have exciting 2 months now of holidays. Almost 3,
4
is
months.
it?
4 months.
4. Oh my God, okay.
November,
That is so
December,
nice.
January, February.
Okay, how exciting. Okay, great. So, crossing my fingers for your master's then, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that. And I think we can finish it off here. I'm just gonna set this on for us. So to invite everyone to also your social media because you have a great portfolio. So I think people would love to see that as well. But from here, I want to thank you very much for joining me on this meeting and be a part of MBSD Ambassadors. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that we solved some doubts about, architecture and interior design, because I feel like there is a lot of confusion between those two sometimes. So I hope it will be helpful for other people as well. And yeah, I wish you best luck on your travels as well. And
Thank you. And
I'm very
thank you for
excited to see your
inviting me
pictures.
here.
No problem. I'm glad that you're here. And thank you for everyone who is listening or be watching it afterwards. If you will have any sorts of question, feel free to comment under the video, and then we can answer those if there's any questions regarding the topics that we mentioned. And yeah, I think that is it. Thank you so much for joining. And yes, I will see you around.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye.